Hey folks, welcome to a product review at Finominal. Today we're going to have a look at GMO's Quality Fund, which trades under the ticker GQETX. Now, we published quite a bit of research highlighting that there is no positive X returns associated with the quality factor. Quality is more useful when combined with value momentum. But that's the research, and let's see how GMO has done in terms of creating value for investors. The first thing that we do is a benchmarking exercise, and we do see on our alpha analyzer tool that the suggested benchmark is the S&P 500. Now, since inception in 2004, we can see that the performance of GMO's quality fund has been very similar to the S&P 500. We do see that the cumulative exit return is still negative over the 20-year period, which is not so great. We also see that in certain periods, specifically periods of market stress, like the global financial crisis in 2009, the fund outperformed versus benchmark. Kind of what we expected. Now, let's have a quick look in terms of how similar the portfolios of the fund and its benchmark are. And we're going to use our securities analyzer tool for that and the fund overlap analysis. Now, we do see that GQETX's portfolio is very concentrated. It's only 45 stocks versus roughly 500 for the S&P 500. So the overlap is already 31 stocks. But from a percentage perspective, that equates to 29%. And that's actually quite high for such a concentrated portfolio. And the inverse of that is an active share of 71%, which is on the lower side for concentrated actively managed fund. But we'll come back to that later on. Now, first, before we talk about alpha, let's actually talk about if this fund is providing what we expect it to do, which is exposure to the quality factor. So we run a returns-based factor exposure analysis, and we can see the factor betas over time, which are consistently positive for low volatility and quality, as expected. We also see consistently negative exposure to value and momentum, also kind of expected, and neutral exposure to the size factor, which simply means that the average market cap in GMO's quality fund is very similar to the average market cap in the S&P 500. Now, let's move on to alpha and see how the fund has done from that perspective. We do see, despite having an active share that is only moderately high, the alpha consistently has been quite high with 14 out of 20 years. Now, we differentiate between outperformance and alpha. Outperformance is simply the difference to the benchmark, i.e. the S&P 500, versus alpha is the unexplained return. So this is what can't be attributed to either the market, S&P 500, or equity factors. Another way of thinking about alpha is manager skill, or luck sometimes. Now, the interesting thing about this fund is that the alpha has been consistently increasing over the last few years. And we can see that perhaps better in this chart where the alpha, which are the kind of like yellow bars here, that there was negative alpha generation in the early years of the fund. But in the last decade, it's almost consistently positive, which is great. Now, this is GMO's fund on a standalone basis, but we can also, of course, compare that to some peers, where in this case, we're going to take one product from iShares that simply represents a quality portfolio, qual. Then we're going to take one product from State Street and another one from Hartford. And the later two are simply core equity products. Now, before we move to performance, let's have a quick look at style boxes, if these peers are comparable or not. Now, the blue dot, that represents GMO's quality fund. And we can see, broadly speaking, on metrics like market cap valuation, growth, momentum, volatility, quality, that effectively the quality fund is kind of similar to that product from State Street or Hartford. We do see that it is different to a pure quality product like the one from iShares. For example, here we can see from a market cap perspective that the average stock is quite large within GMO's quality fund. And we do see actually that the pure quality fund ranks slightly higher on profitability and leverage. Now, that's from in terms of the styles that you can find within those products. Let's move on to performance. And what we do see that since 2003, effectively through most of the time, GMO performed very similar to those peers, except since 2022 when it started outperforming, which is great. Now, what's even kind of like more attractive about GMO's product, and we can actually add the S&P 500 as a benchmark, that it kind of does what our research shows about the quality factor. So the quality factor doesn't allow you to, like in this case, actually GMO's fund did outperform the last 2 years, but if you kind of like ignore that for a moment, because there were also periods of underperformance before that, but it doesn't allow it to generate a higher total return than the market, but it should allow it to achieve a higher risk-adjusted return. Stated differently, you should see a higher Sharpe ratio. And indeed, we do see that GQETX has generated a Sharpe ratio of 0.85 over the last 11 years, which is higher than its peers and higher than the stock market, i.e. the S&P 500. And we also see that the drawdown was lower with 30% compared to 33% for the S&P 500. Now, it is worth mentioning that GMO charges a relatively high fee with 49 basis points compared to the other products, and of course compared to the SPY, which you can get for nothing today, but you're getting something for high fees. Now, and that kind of summarizes our product review of GMO's quality fund. So that is a product that provides exactly what you expect it to do in the sense of exposure to quality, well, the quality factor, a little bit low volatility as well, and that it is a product that is not meant to outperform the stock market, but produce higher risk-adjusted returns. So that kind of summarizes it. So it's a good alternative for core equity products or the market itself, if it ever pays up. And that's it in terms of a quick product review of GMO's quality fund. Hope that was helpful. Have a nice day.